These are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to this webinar about PharmaPendium. My name is Anne-Marie and I'm your host today. I'm here with our PharmaPendium expert, Pooja Jan, and Pooja will be bringing us through an introduction to PharmaPendium. We'll be placing this webinar online so you can listen to it again at your own pace. Before we get started with PharmaPendium, I'd briefly like to put PharmaPendium into context with the other activities that go on at Elsevier. Elsevier serves three main and interlinked areas which may be of interest to you: biology, chemistry and medicine. PharmaPendium gives you searchable access to all FDA and EMEA approval documentation. Embase is one of the products serving your needs in biochemistry, and we also have Reaxis, our tool for chemists, and our new target finding and validation tool, Target Insights, within the biology and medicine spheres. Cyber Science Direct provides full-text access to over 10 million journal articles and enables further understanding of the scientific literature through applications and new article formats, as does Cyberscopus, a multidisciplinary all-science abstract and citation database. This should help to put PharmaPendium into context, and with that I'd like to move to today's subject, PharmaPendium, which Pooja will be walking us through. Just before we get started with Pooja, a couple of needs to know about the webinar. During the session you may send us your questions by using the chat or ask a question function on the webinar control panel. We'll have 10 to 15 minutes for questions at the end, and for those questions we do not answer in the webinar, we'll include in a Q&A and send to all attendees by email after the webinar. If you wish to have a full screen view, please click on the red arrow. Your control panel will be hidden. Click again on the red arrow to see your control panel again. So please do send us your questions as they come up during the session, and we'll make sure we get to those at the end. So Pooja, welcome. Could you give us a brief introduction of yourself and tell us all about PharmaPendium?
Sure, thank you so much, Amal. So hello everyone, thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Pooja Jain and I am the Sales Development Manager of PharmaPendium. So just a little bit about me. My experience stems from working in academia, a startup pharma, and also a large pharmaceutical company, Eli Lilly, which altogether has resulted in over 10 years of experience. And I'm really excited to talk about PharmaPendium today. Today's agenda will cover an introduction as to what is PharmaPendium, how do the documents appear in PharmaPendium, and what is the pharmacokinetic module in PharmaPendium. We will then switch to a live demo after conducting a poll and go through some examples of how you can use PharmaPendium. And this will then be followed by a Q&A as described by Amal. So with that said, let's get started. So let's now describe the first part of the webinar, which is, what is PharmaPendium? PharmaPendium is the first product to offer both searchable FDA approval packages and European packages in a searchable format. We have scanned over 1.9 million pages covering all of the FDA history since 1938, as well as the European approval documents since 1995. Our product is used primarily for preclinical assessment of safety, efficacy, and pharmacokinetic parameters, as well as for regulatory affairs purposes when looking at the criteria necessary for making a successful application. And we also have ERS data, which is easily searchable as well. Overall, we have unique content in the sense that we are the only one on the market that offers such a product due to our unprecedented access to data from the FDA directly. So let's kind of go a little more at the granular level and take a closer look at PharmaPendium. PharmaPendium is the first product to bring together preclinical, clinical, and post-marketing data together in one platform. And it basically allows you to answer questions such as, which experimental data translates, why or why not, into the clinic? We have over 1.1 million extracted drug safety observations, which contains normalized adverse event and tox terminology mapped to drug class, target, and structural chemistry as examples. In addition, we also have over 1.3 million extracted PK parameter data in both preclinical and clinical studies. And the take-home message here is that a lot of this data is actually manually extracted data. So a lot of the data that is presented is actually a collection of data from many different documents. Hence, within a matter of minutes, you can get access to critical data that help you make go or no-go decisions during the drug development process. So we've been hearing a lot about these approval documents. So let's try to understand now, how do the regulatory documents appear in PharmaPendium? Here is an example of an original document. You can see that these documents can contain some really interesting data. Here we have an example of how there can be some really interesting toxicokinetic data. So how does an original document like this look like in PharmaPendium? Well, once you conduct a search in PharmaPendium and click on one of the query results, you will see the document displayed in this manner, where it will take you directly to the page that is of interest to you. You can tell that the documents have not been manipulated in any manner because of the marks that you see on the page. In fact, the FDA requested that we keep these original marks in order to retain the document in its original form. Highlighted in blue, you can see an example of a term which is highlighted and indexed from the original document. You will get a better idea of looking at these documents more when we go into the live demo. Now, let's look at the pharmacokinetic module. This is an add-on module to the PharmaPendium platform that we have described up till now. The pharmacokinetic module allows you to have unprecedented access to preclinical and clinical exposure data extracted from the FDA packages, both current and historic, and also from the European documents. And by current and historic, we are actually making a distinction between the documents which are offered in the PharmaPendium platform versus what is offered in an additional module called the Classic Collection. Essentially, the current platform offers all FDA documents from 1992 till present, whereas the Classic module offers all documents from 1938 till 1991 inclusive. The extracted data allows you to gain access to pharmacokinetic data of multiple parameters, in fact, almost 95 parameters, usually under various experimental conditions. And you can get information on things like concomitant drugs, disease states, and demographic differences, some critical pieces of information that you may need when you're making your strategic plan. Now, it is important to keep in mind that the level of PK data that you get access to is almost never published at the level of detail that we offer. So you get access to data that is exclusively found in PharmaPendium. And all of the data is browsable within the same platform as the drug safety databases. So that's a brief overview of PharmaPendium. We're now really excited to go into some live demos, and I'll turn it over to Amo, who will begin with a poll.
Thank you, Pooja. A fantastic introduction to PharmaPendium. And now we'd like to turn it over to you, as Pooja said, and find out what you are really interested in seeing. And Pooja will use your feedback to run her demos. So we've got, which example would you like to see next? So please select one of the two given. We have a PK example. So Pooja just showed us and gave us some information on the pharmacokinetic module in PharmaPendium. If you'd like to see how that works and how you can gain pharmacokinetic information from PharmaPendium, please choose the PK example. Or if you're more interested in looking at adverse events, for example, in preclinical to clinical, then please choose the safety example. So 75% of our audience would like to see a safety example, Pooja.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll start off with a very sort of simple example. So one example maybe could be, and these are from actual customers or quotes from actual customers. One customer had said, "I'm interested in looking at gingivitis that has been noted as an adverse event in preclinical studies in dogs." So in order to do this, what we're going to do is go under the Adverse Effects Toxicity tab. So over here you will see 5 tabs. The Home tab just brings you to this screen over here. We have Drugs, Adverse Effects Toxicity, Targets, and Pharmacokinetic Data. So for gingivitis, we're going to go under here. We are going to type gingivitis in the search bar, and we're going to select dental and gingival conditions. And what's nice when you do this, you actually get a view of all of the drugs which are listed for this adverse event. And as we scroll down, you can see there's quite a lot. So we'll just scroll down to give you an idea of what kind of data is available. And then at the very bottom, we also get to a part which shows the targets. So what are the targets that are related to these drugs? And again, we get a very nice list of targets here. So it really allows you to be quite versatile in your searching and get sort of more targeted information that you're looking for. And also what's nice is that right away you can see that you get a view of preclinical, clinical, and errors data. So for the sake of this question, which is looking at dogs, we're going to click on preclinical data. And here we get a list of all of the results. Now, specifically the question related to dogs. So what we can easily do is go under the Show Filters tab. We click over here. And this tab allows us to search by various different parameters, either by adverse effect, which we are already doing, which is why you only see one option. We can do it by dose types, drugs and drug classes, routes of administration, sources, so what kind of FDA documents specifically do we want to search by. We can do it by species or also the year. So if we go under species, we click on vertebrates, then on mammals, then on carnivores. So we just click this, apply the filter, and then here you get all of the adverse effect toxicity data that's related to dogs for gingivitis. And what's nice here, we had previously mentioned about the classic collection, which spans from 1938 to 1991 inclusive. And here you can actually see how the classic collection can be quite useful. As you scroll down, you see a lot of documents before 1991. So that's actually really interesting. And then if we, let's say, click on the first result, just to see what the approval package looks like, or the document looks like. We click here. We can see over here it mentions gingivitis and then goes into more detail about that side effect. So it really brings you to the page that you're looking for in the document without you having to spend a lot of time going through everything. So that's one nice simple example of how we can find adverse event data, for example, in preclinical studies. So let's go through another example. Again, this was a question that was asked by a previous customer. Question is, a drug project is showing preclinical hepatic steatosis. Which other nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors show this in humans, and has this been observed post-market? So to answer this question, all we have to do is type the adverse event in the search bar, when we click on adverse effects and toxicity, we get hepatic steatosis, and we click go, and we see the results pop up over here. And once again, you can view all of the drugs which are available. We can now go under drug class to get the results for the nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. And if we just scroll down, we get this option over here. And what's nice is that we can actually look at each drug and get to the data specifically for that drug if we're interested in that. Or we can just go to the drug class collectively and find the data that we're looking for. So let's go to the drug class collectively and click on clinical data. And here you can actually see for that drug class that we've clicked on clinical data, we see all of the data here. But you can actually see whether this event was also present in the preclinical studies or in post-market studies. So for example, if we click on preclinical, we can see there's a result of a study done with this drug in dogs. If we click on the post-marketing data, we can see all of the drugs which reported this adverse event after the drug was launched. So again, it's a nice way of sort of showing how you can find all of the safety data that you're looking for.